I'm not a babysitter, and these parents just need to parent their children. I think that they shouldn't be getting ABA services anymore. They don't seem to be doing any of the things that I recommend ever. Can you tell me more about that? It sounds like you're really frustrated or upset. Yeah, I'm really frustrated and upset. When I'm with the kid, they always use the bathroom on time. When I'm with the kid, we don't fight about homework. When I'm with the kid, they eat the food. When I'm with the kid, we get through everything that we need to get through and we have extra time, and they're a freaking delight. When I leave, they freak out, or the parents always saying that they never do any of the things that we ask them to, and I show them how to use the board again, but then when I ask them if they use the reinforcement board, they say that they didn't, and they wonder why it's not working. Like, this must just not be for them. I mean, I can tell that you're pretty frustrated, and from that perspective, I mean, that sounds frustrating. Have you asked them why they haven't used the board? They said that they don't have time for it, they can't remember it, and I think that if they don't have time for it and they can't remember it, then they must just not be committed. They're literally wasting my time, and I should be using that time with another client who actually cares. Whoa, I can tell that you do not feel valued at all here, but I wonder why you actually do this work. Like, why would you show up for these people? I really like this kid. I think they're really wonderful. And honestly, the family are really cool people. And I love being able to help people. Like, being able to see that one-on-one change and things going in the right direction just makes me feel really good. Right. So I wonder why you would want to recommend that this family isn't a good fit for ABA. Because we're not making progress. Didn't you hear me? What if the parents were the kids? How would you go about helping them? But I mean, the parents aren't the kids, and they clearly come to services, so we must be on the same page as to wanting to do what's best for the kid. I don't see the point of this exercise. That's fine. Just play with me on this. I promise it'll go somewhere that it'll address your question. I promise. Well, if the parents were the kid, then I would probably set up a reinforcement chart for them. But like, I'm not going to do that. Right, let's keep playing with that. So instead of a reinforcement chart, maybe just reinforcement at all would be beneficial to that. Have you tried like the catch them being good strategy yet? With the parents? Yeah, I mean, parents are humans too, right? The rules of applied behavior analysis and human behavior will still apply to them, so we can shape the parents' behavior. I shouldn't have to do that. Okay, but then let's bring it back to like, why are you here? Like, why would you take this job, To help the kids. Right. So if we can help the kids by helping the parents, that's going to be a really long-term investment in supporting the kids, because the parents are going to be with them for the rest of their lives, right? Like, and the goal is to kind of work ourselves out of a job that the kids don't need us anymore. So if we can invest in meeting the parents where they're at, that's probably actually the most help that you can provide these kids. I mean, when you put it that way, that does make sense. Maybe there's something going on with you feeling frustrated and unheard here. Does that feel correct? I just feel like I'm working all the time and I'm trying to explain these things over and over to them, and it just falls on deaf ears. Like, they must not care as much as I care. And I really do care. And so, like, being in the situation over and over and over again, it just makes me feel awful and unvalued, and like I'm not getting anywhere. So I actually think that this might be a you problem. And I say that in the most loving way, that you're not feeling the validation that the kids give you in the same way, and the progress just isn't as fast. We know that early intervention is one of those magical times where things go really quickly. And when you work with adults, neurotypical adults especially, when we don't have control over the environment, it has to be something that comes from within, right? Like, that motivating operation is completely different because we don't have control over their environment. We can't manipulate an adult's environment most of the time. It feels like it goes slower, and it seems like that's getting in the way of you accessing your reinforcement. I mean, maybe. And sometimes money isn't enough. Like a lot of the times when we get into a service role, we want to feel like we're doing something good. And so kind of hopping from beginning client to beginning client where it's like new and fresh and you can make such a big impact so quickly can feel really good. But is that actually aligning with our overall goals long term of wanting to be of service to these people? Is it a shallow impact, right? Like the surface level stuff that gets going, like, is that all that you want? Or is going the distance and taking that life-changing long depth something that you might be willing to dig deep for, to align with? I mean, when you put it that way, that does kind of sound cool. So I'm going to suggest acceptance and commitment therapy as a modality here. Have you heard of it before? I mean, I've heard of it, but I mean, I kind of think it might be outside of the scope of ABA. It's certainly not in my scope. Sure, let me explain it to you really fast. So typically in ABA, right, we modify the environment to impact an individual's behavior, right? Right. Well, ACT allows us to impact the language of an individual so that they change their perception of their environment and therefore have a larger behavioral repertoire to pick from and play with without changing their environment, but by changing their language and how they relate to themselves. Isn't that talk therapy? Not in the way that you're describing it. It's changing the way that you talk so that you can change the way that you perceive your environment so that you can change your behavior. So we're still changing behavior, which talking is behavior, right? It's verbal behavior, like Skinner, yeah? Okay, I'm following. So there's this thing called the hexaflex, and I'm not really going to explain it to you right now because we can look into it later. But what we're going to do with these parents is try to get what's important out of them. A lot of the times, parents have lots of values and lots of things pulling on their time, and these things can be very, very important. And individuals have different relationships to things being important. Sometimes they dig deep and they move towards it, and other times, right, that might be a fight response. And other times they might freeze or they might run away from it. That autonomic nervous system is a really weird thing. But it's still a reliable, predictable behavioral outcome, and one that we can work with. If we notice a parent is engaging in one of those on a regular basis, we can talk about it. We can notice that behavior is happening and show them with compassion from a place of love that that's occurring, right? Then what we do is we kind of realign them to the values that they set, reminding them of what's important and why we're doing what we're doing, and then work together to create a outcome, right? Intervention that will allow them to be able to manage all the parts of their life, not simply just one part. Like, it can't only be about their kids. When you go to a session, it can only be about their kids. It's very rarely that a parent has as much time as you do to dedicate simply to these things. Maybe we could break it down into smaller bites for them. Maybe we can also reinforce them, tell them that they're doing a good job because they're so deeply afraid that they're ruining it, that they get scared into a freeze response, or focus on something else where they know that they can make a measurable impact. They probably just believe that they can't actually help their kid, and that scares them or hurts their feelings. And by me getting after them, I probably reinforce that they can't actually handle this and that they're out of their depth, rather than reinforcing that they can move in the direction of helping their kids and that this is possible for them. Exactly. So by talking to them and trying to figure out what they can do and what's actually reasonable, what they think, instead of what they think that they should do, that they're not actually going to be able to do, I can find a way to reinforce them or catch them being good and start building momentum upon that. Right. And I could probably really make a huge impact long term on these kiddos by helping their parents, because they're going to be the people who are with them the longest. Right. I mean, I totally already know how to do this. I have a million ideas already. That's perfect. So why would you make the effort of doing that? Why would that be important to you feeling good? Well, because I really care about the kiddos. And this is going to be a way that I can help the kiddos long term. And I can really dig deep here. And I bet that would feel really good. I bet the parents would even be thrilled, but it's going to probably be a tough go for a little while, especially since I've accidentally reinforced this history of them interacting with me for probably a couple years, if not a lot of years now. Right. So be patient with yourself and have them use this guided journal to help jumpstart that intervention for the both of you.